Hey, I'm Diana and this is Story Artist, a show that will not only help you tell stories that will change the world, but also create a lifestyle around those stories that is sustainable, creative, and fulfilling. Let's be artists who impact society by both their work and their lifestyle. Ready to start the adventure of your lifetime? Hey guys, so welcome to my homemade studio, and I'm excited to do videos again because I could make my daughter sleep, and when she sleeps for her lunch nap, which is a bit longer, I can do some recording for you guys. And today I want to share with you some exciting editing principles from famous people, which are amazing and which you should know. And also this I'm doing because I'm launching a new editing course, and I will tell you guys about it a little bit more in the next episodes. But today I just want to tease you a bit with amazing editing principles from famous people. And number one is Martin Scorsese, famous director you all should know probably. And he actually takes this principle from George Lucas. And he says, if you like the first cut, you're in trouble. And I kind of love this principle because it really shows us that the first work, the first cut is something that we shouldn't like. And it's okay to have your first draft and not be happy with it, because the editing process is what will turn your dust, which is your first draft, into the diamonds, into the bestseller, into the work you really want to publish and send out into the world. So you can never get it from the first draft or from the first cut. If you know a little bit about filmmaking, you will know that the whole process of storytelling actually happens in the edit, because in the editing so many things are changed. And this is the same with storytelling. You have a plan, you maybe had an outline, you wrote your first draft, but you should be open for changes, because when you have the first draft and you read it, you will know that there are lots and lots of things that you need to change. The second principle is from Juta Patov, who says that in your first draft, you should just spill it out, get it out. And he calls it the vomit pass, which is a bit disgusting, but it sticks in your head. And basically it says that whenever you're writing a first draft, you just should spill out everything that comes into your head, everything that you planned or whatever it is, and don't judge it. Don't go back and try to edit it, whatever it is. Just spill it out, just vomit it out, take this pass, and then re-edit it. And he says that half of our brains, but maybe I read that this theory actually is not entirely true, but he says that half of our brains is creative, the other is a critic. So you should try and maybe separate this vomit pass with the editing pass, at least in different days or different times of day maybe, so that you can really switch from one side of the brain to the other. And the third one is Stine. People or teenies who loved to read it in their teenage years. It's like ghost stories and horror stories for young adults, and they're kind of exciting. I loved reading Goosebumps when I have to confess that I loved reading it when I was, 11, 12. But he has a really interesting masterclass, and he talks about that you shouldn't be afraid to go back and rewrite. Even if you see that at the 2/3 of your writing, you notice that you need to add a talking cat into your story. Whatever, just don't be afraid. Don't expect to get it from the first draft. But when you see that you have to add something, you have to re-edit something and go back, don't be afraid to go back, because it's your universe you create, and you shouldn't be afraid of editing and going back. You shouldn't have this expectation to write everything from the beginning and for it to be like set in stone. You write it like a skeleton, and then you have to work on it, re-edit it, go back and forth. And if you add a character, you need to make sure that people know this character and that he's introduced from the beginning on. You cannot add a character like in the third act all of a sudden. You have to set up things that are later paid off in the story. So if you have like a brilliant idea for the last piece of your story or the third act, you really need to go back and set it up in the beginning in order for it to work. And then we have Aaron Sorkin, and he has this principle which we all know, which is called kill your darlings, which is kind of sometimes a hard one, but I learned to not stress out about it. Like if I notice that something doesn't work and is not necessary for my story, I just cut it out. However, I think that it's amazing or I'm in love with this character, if I see that this character has no function, I just cut him out of the story. I'm kind of ruthless, and sometimes it's my story pace is kind of too fast, even not too slow, which I have to work on. But I like what he says, that you don't have to kill your darlings, you have to earn your darlings. And what he means by that, Aaron Sorkin is a screenwriter and director. Obviously, he wrote things like The Social Network. And he says some directors and writers get away with having amazing scenes that don't have a function in the story or don't take the story a step forward. But they get away with it. Why? Because they have earned it. They have written so far an amazing story that works for every single point, and then they have earned to have this scene that maybe has no function, but it's just entertaining, it's just good, and people accept it for what it is and actually like it because they have earned it throughout the story, and they have earned it in their stories altogether. For example, if you have an amazing story, or if you are known as a writer to write amazing, great stories with plot and everything that works together, that are fast-paced and not too slow, then you can actually earn those moments, and you don't have to kill your darlings, but you have to earn them. And I love this principle. The fifth principle we have from Deadmau5. If you know him, he's a musician and a DJ, and he says nothing's ever really finished until you're just satisfied with the result. So nothing's ever really finished. You just, at some point, you just satisfied, and that's true. And you have to understand that if you're waiting to be finished with your story, you'll never be, because there always be something to edit, to change. And even if you publish your story and go back to it like 2-3 years after, you'll see that I should have written it completely differently. But I don't think you can, and I don't think you should go back. Maybe you want to, if it wasn't that successful, you may want to looking into republish it, relaunch it completely with a new cover, and maybe rewrite it. But otherwise, I'll just leave it be, because you develop as a writer with every day, every month, every year, and you should put this development into your new stories. And once you're satisfied with your story, you should let it go. I think this is a very, very important process to do, and not wait until it's finished and until it's perfect, because it will never be. And the sixth and last principle is from David Mamet, and I kind of love him. He's a screenwriter and a theater playwright. And his masterclass is amazing. If you can watch it, do. He's really funny, and he has some amazing principles. But what I like that he says, be clinical with your work. Like in an emergency room, he takes this example. When the doctor has an emergency, he has a list that he goes through to check with the patient if he has that, and to see what's wrong with him and how he can treat him. And the same, we should be clinical with our drafts. Basically, we should have like a list or a process we go through and see if that works, that, and then we will see what's wrong with the draft, and we can treat it. We can make it whole. You know what I mean? And I love that, and I think every writer should have like this checklist or a process he goes through every time he edits, because it will spare you so many hours of work, and it will also spare you so many sleepless nights and headache when you know exactly where to go, what to go through, how to edit, and how to find the faults with your story, the things that are not working, the injuries, and how to treat them. And that's why I created a course, which is still in the making, but it will be launching soon, sometime next month, about a 8-step editing process where I'll exactly show you what to go through, which steps to take in order to be clinical with your editing and to find the faults and to know how to edit. I'll also have I'll be adding some bonus classes about what to look for, how to edit, and all the things that you have to look at story-wise. And I will be always adding content, so it will be an amazing course, not too expensive. And if you buy in the launch week, you will not regret it because it will be 50% off. So yeah, and if you want to be notified about that, just subscribe at my blog, storyartist.me. Subscribe to my newsletter because I will let everybody in my newsletter know. And yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.